Hello Internet! Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're actually going to be working with 3D Builder to actually just build a really quick 3D printing model that I can use to store these sticky notes and a pen and just kind of hopefully attach that to the wall somehow so it'll kind of sit like this on the wall, and then it will, I don't know, you'll be able to pull this out or pull this out and it will just work. So it sounds super simple, but hopefully we can figure out a few additional things about 3D Builder. I've done a video on this before, and hopefully we can dig a little bit more in depth with this, because we're going to be using strictly 3D Builder to build this entire thing. I'll probably need Cura for 3D printing, but other than that, should be entirely here. So the first thing, we need calipers, because we need to actually measure how thick this pen is. Which I don't know if you guys can, that's going to be hard. Let me actually, hold on. We can do this better. Anyway, getting back to the calipers, the way these work is they get you fairly precise measurements. So I've already actually measured these, but just so you kind of get the idea, you pinch whatever it is you're measuring in between there, and it will read off along this big line here. There are going to be some measurements. That's going to be totally out of focus because I haven't focused on my camera. Hold on. We're going to get this right. There we go. That ought to work. So, if I can, oh, I moved it again. This isn't working very well. Anywho, doesn't really particularly matter, but all you need to know is this will let you measure the width of something. In this case, this pen is 10, I believe that's centimeters. No, that would be millimeters. 10 millimeters. Okay, so pen is 10 millimeters, which means we need 10 millimeters, a 10 millimeter wide hole for this to fit into. And these are about the same width. They're a little bit thinner. But that's fine. We can actually use the same, and then it'll just have a little bit of play. And they're actually exactly 3 inches wide, but we're using everything in millimeters, which comes out to about 80. It's actually slightly under 80, but that's plenty for us to use. I don't know why I'm showing that to you. It's not going to be very helpful, but just so you kind of know where all these measurements are coming from, that's how I'm doing it, is just kind of measuring them there. So to fit this, we need something 80 millimeters wide and 10-ish. I'm probably going to round that up to 12, just so the pen doesn't fit like tightly. I don't want things tight in there. That just doesn't seem like a good idea. So we can actually get started. And what I'm going to do is model two bits. First, we're going to do the inside, which is going to be the parts we're actually cutting out for this. So if I unlock this, we want it 80 millimeters wide and about, let's do 12.5. Is that should be plenty. So 12.5 there. And then height, it's going to be 80 millimeters high, but we don't want it all the way to the top because then we can't pull it out. And that's sort of the key point of holding something there. So I think we can do, is 60 a good idea? We could actually, let's keep it at, so it'll be 40 millimeters high. We can play with this, it's 3D printing, so we can actually come back and change all of these later. And that's one of the nice things of all of this, is the way we're doing this, hopefully we can actually come and pull some of this out and kind of work with it and change how it all works. But we'll see. Then we need something for the pen. So this is just going to be 12.5 by 12.5, and then we already have 40. And then I just need to offset this so it's not intersecting with that. So like, let's see, 51.25, that'll be 5 millimeters between the two, or for spacing, but actually, I don't want that because so what I'm thinking is about 2 millimeters wide for each of the barriers. So I'm actually going to copy that here and do 48.25. So there's 2 millimeters between the pen and the sticky notes. And this should pretty much be our first piece. That's really all we need. If we wanted to, we could add like additional depth here, so we could have multiple of these sticky notes in one of these. I'm not really worried about that. I just need one right now. So let's grab, what's the best way to, oops, not that. Let's join these. So if I merge them, they're now one object. And can I paint these color? That didn't work. Apparently that's not how you paint something. I don't know. Kind of would have assumed that would have worked. So, okay, let's ungroup it, and we can select them by material or do whatever. I'm going to try painting it again. Oh, well, that was easy. You have to actually click it. Okay, got it. So that's green. Green is now our... Okay, what? There we go. You have to be in edit mode to select two things. Got it. Obviously, it's kind of showing that I'm still learning these tools, but that's kind of the point here, is we're all hopefully still learning. So there we go. This is what we want to design around. And so the next thing I'm thinking, we can actually move that back for now. We just need to know it is how wide it is, or close to how wide it is, and how thick it is. So we had it 12, oops, that's positioning. We don't want that. I'm going to resize this so this is exactly the same size. And then we need to actually, I'm going off of this, by the way, but anyway, we need to actually increase the size of this by a fixed amount. So in this case, we're going to increase it by 2 millimeters on all sides. So 4 millimeters. So we can increase that and increase that. And now that's grown. And then the tricky bit is we only want to increase the bottom because this is going to come out. We want a hole in the top. So we don't want to add additional space for that. So it's actually only 42 inches high, or millimeters high, which means we can kick that up 1. And there we go. So now it's still sitting on the ground, and you can see it's slightly taller than the back, which is good. And then we just need to kind of get this in somewhat of alignment. They should be at exactly the same position, because if they're not, this whole thing is not going to really work. 48.25, that seems close. We'll figure out if that's actually right or not in a second. But now let's paint this blue. Just so the outside is the same color and the inside is the same color, and that way we can kind of visually tell what's going on. And we need to do the exact same thing here, but we actually need to extend this into the middle of our cylinder. So this is going to be, we said 12.5, so 16.5 again. And then width is, well, let's do height next because we know that. And then this is going to be 80 plus, does this actually work? Nope, plus 4, plus 2, okay, 82. So 80 plus 2, we actually need that on both sides, so plus 4. And then that will get us to the edge of this. We need to add the radius, which is going to be 6.8 I think. 12.5 divided by 6.25, yeah. So that's going to be 90.25. And then what we want is to align this like so. So it comes directly into the middle. It just snaps into position. And so this is sort of our attachment. What we can do, if we want to make this like fancy, is we can either round out the bottom, or I can actually make it so the entire back kind of sits flush, like right here. If I wanted, I could actually tie that in just using another cube. So what that would look like is, let's color that. It's going to be 42 high, and then 6.25 by 6.25. And then we'd want to drag it over this way. Did I not make you tall enough? I don't think I made you tall enough. Yeah, 42. There we go. And then I can just actually slide this into place, and it should just auto align for me, like so. And now it's, if I can deselect it, it should be flush. Looks like we're a little bit off. What could that be? Oh, ha. Sorry, 16.5 is what we need to divide. So this is going to actually be, that's going to be wrong for the other one too, isn't it? It kind of looks like it might be. Okay, so we have to refine our math a bit. But we can do this one first. So 8.25 is what we want for both of these, horizontal and depth. And then let's move that into position. So just grab it and it will snap still. So there we go. That is our model, I guess. Yeah. Cool. So now we have sort of this round thing that we can use. The only other bit that we want to fix is going to be this, because I did that math wrong. So it's going to be 80 plus 4 plus 8.5, 8.25, so 92.25. And that's because of the additional depth there, or the additional radius from this. We're measuring this guy and not the other one. So that hopefully gets us closer to where we need to be. And then I should be able to just group all of those. So now we have this group, which is our exterior. I don't know if you can name that. Doesn't look like it. And then we have our interior bits. So now we need to get the interior into the exterior. Like that. That was easy. And we're going to need to move it up a bit. Let's see, I think we just need to move it up 1, 2. Okay. So there we go. It's now just protruding out the top. Oh, did I not need to increase that? I may not have needed to increase that. Shoot. My math may have been right the first time. So it's too thick over here for at least, it doesn't get us a uniform thickness. So let's select that. Let's ungroup this. Select that and resize this down to 90.25. And then we just need to horizontally slide it until it's in the center and everything kind of lines up again. So let's select all of our blue, group it. I could actually be selecting it this way. using the materials. Because they all share the same material, you can actually select things by material. So I can select everything that's green or everything that's turquoise, which actually makes things a lot easier. Oops, didn't want to do that. And just to make sure everything's kind of looking correct, let's turn on X-ray. And we can actually kind of glance through and see our mesh is actually looking all right. We've got a uniform distance around everything. So what I'm going to do is save this. Let's just save. This is always slow. I don't know why this is slow, but there's some async operation that gets thrown up that is just super slow. So we're going to save this as our sticky note holder, because why not? And we'll save it in two formats. 3MF is what all of these are. I believe that's a CAD format. And STL, which is what we use when we do like Unity exports for printing. That's more of a mesh model. And so the difference there is CAD is going to be perfect circles. And so if I actually like zoom in on these cylinders, you won't really see the vertices. Well, you will. But if you use like a CAD program and you start looking at like cylinders or something, they're defined mathematically and not by vertices and things like that. And so because of that, you can actually get far greater detail. You can actually say this thing is a circle, whereas when you do a mesh, you have to kind of say this thing has vertices that kind of resemble a circle or whatever you're trying to make. So that's sort of the difference there. At least I think I got that right. I'm pretty sure 3MF is designed for those kind of formats. That could just be wrong and it just has extra 3D mesh information, but I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, sticky holder one note. So I can hold one note and one pen. Sure. Save that. Guess it pulled up too. Yay for async operations with no no tests to lock that out so you don't do that multiple times. I bet if you just spam that, you'd get a whole bunch of dialogues. Anyway, now that we have that saved, what I'm going to do is subtract it. Oh, that didn't work as well as I had hoped. It sort of works. So you can see we have the cutout for the note, but obviously this other one, that didn't go as well. There's something not quite right there. And now it's one. Let's do 22.1. All we need is we need this to protrude above the surface, and since they were completely flush with one another, it may have just not been able to determine. Now that I've put it like just barely above, we do lose that slightly on the height, which we could fix if we wanted to, but I don't think 1/10 of a millimeter is really that big of a concern. It's not a perfect, but that's fine. But this looks like something we can actually use. So the pen would go in here, and then you have your sticky note in the other one, and theoretically we could add like extensions and it could just keep going. So I think that's that. There's not much else to it. So I am going to save this as an STL format, like so. And some stuff is going to get lost because this is not the 3MF format, which is what 3D Builder prefers. And now the next thing is I'm going to actually load this up into Cura, which is a thing that can actually tell you how your print is going to work and how it's all going to get configured and all of that fun stuff. So I will be right back and we will have that open and I can kind of walk you through configuring this to actually print. And then we can print it and I will show you the final result. Hopefully. So let's do that. All right. So I fixed the focus on my camera because, of course, I didn't change that back because I'm bad at this, apparently. And so what we need to do is pull this guy, our STL file, over into Cura, and you'll see it load, and then it does this slicing thing. So the way a 3D printer works is it actually just prints plastic in a little stream, and kind of like you're icing a cake, where it just does a stream back and forth over and over again. And we can actually see that if I turn on these layers. That doesn't appear to be working. Nope. Okay. That worked well. What? How? I haven't actually tried to use this recently, so I don't really know what I'm doing. But so there is a way. I guess I'll just leave it there. There is a way to actually 3D to show how these are going to be printed, because they're not just printed. It's not just, oh, I want to make this. It doesn't really work like that. It does sort of like, it'll go around the outside and you can see all of these settings over here. So we have, for example, a setting for wall thickness. So the way that models work is there is a wall, which is the exterior wall of the mesh. And then there is also a inside, an infill. And so we're not going to really see that here. But with more complex models, like if you're printing a cube, you'll have a solid wall, and then the inside is actually not solid. It's filled with a percentage of material that's kind of a support structure, so it can still bear weight and kind of hold like the roof of your cube. But you don't need to put, you don't need to fill the inside of it because you're not going to see it. It's not really, unless you need it for structural reasons, it's not really needed at all. And so that's lets you kind of configure that. There is a layer height, so you can kind of tweak that if you want more precision, if you want more layers, which will let you do more stuff, you can set that down. And all of this is kind of stuff that you have to tweak. There's temperature for the plastic you're using. I typically print with PLA, which is sugar-based, I think. Sugar or corn, one of the two, maybe both. I'm not entirely sure, but it is an organic plastic, which means it biodegrades. So you don't really have to worry as much about it, and it doesn't smell, which in an apartment is nice. But point being, this is sort of what we're going to print. So we took it from up here on this top left, exported it to this STL file, and then imported it into Cura. And actually this, if I click this save to file, it will generate a Q code, G code. It will generate a G code file, this guy, which then printers consume. And this G code file tells the printer, it actually controls the movement of the print head and tells it all the configurations that it needs, which I think we can actually view what that generates somehow. Well, actually, there's an easy way to do that. Do that, save it, open that folder, and then open this with like Visual Studio Code. Ta-da! And this should look a lot like assembly, I'm hoping. Yeah. And so you get these commands that tell it to do something, and the more complicated your model, the more complicated this gets. But I don't have any idea what any of this means. Literally zero idea. That's not really the point. It just kind of gives you an idea of what everything is doing. And so it kind of, it pretty much is just commands that go straight to your printer. And that's how that works. So I'm gonna actually send this over to our printer, or to my printer, see how that works, and actually get the result out, and we'll see how that works. So I will be back in a bit. All right, so that took longer than expected, but it is done. Well, the second one is done. And so this is sort of the final result. The first one, well, I guess before we get to that, you'll notice there's some changes here. One, we have this embossed World of Zero logo here, which I just kind of added because I was bored. But also, it will be a little bit, well, you probably can't see, but it's not as dense as what we had originally intended. And that's because it turns out doing that is just a really bad idea. So the first print didn't go as planned. It was looking very similar to this. But the problem with 3D printing is you're printing really hot material onto a surface and then it cools. And the problem with things that are hot is they expand. And the problem with things that when they get cold is they contract. And what ends up happening there is it just kind of warped. And so all the edges kind of pulled up. So both of these sides ended up warping up and it just didn't turn out. And everything else just kind of went horribly wrong. So that happened after about like an hour, which was not as much as you would expect to get done. 3D printing is a very slow and tedious process, even though it's rapid prototype. Anyway, kind of changed that, reduced the resolution, so it printed in about 4 hours instead of the expected 8, which is still kind of slow for what we got, but that's just tweaking. Anyway, this is the result, and you can see it holds pen, or the pen we were testing with, if we want, and it even does like a whiteboard marker or Sharpie or whatever else. So that's a thing. And also, it's got this fun little plasticky raft thing. And you can kind of see some of the glue from the bottom, which was used to keep this one from warping. So the raft here is designed to kind of spread it out and kind of get it to grip to the bottom. And also, I find with my printer, the initial bit of printing is not very precise. And so like it kind of leaves them extra trails and stuff and maybe has some trouble actually sticking initially. And so by adding this raft on, it kind of gets rid of some of that. And we can just cut that off later. And it's got the fun like zombie looking green from the glue that we used. But anyway, that's that. That's totally working. It's done and everything's awesome. So that's that. I'll probably throw this model, the one with the World of Zero, and the base model, both the 3MF and the STL, into the description so you guys can download those files and actually use them for whatever you want if you feel that way. And if you're interested, I can throw these on some 3D printing website, and you guys could actually print them that way without needing a printer. Those kind of services tend to be expensive, especially for something like this. So I'm not sure if that's even a good idea. But if you guys are interested in that, I can definitely do, or at least experiment with that. We'll see. But yeah, there's that. Go and do what you will with that. I don't really care. But yeah, cool. Other things, like since we're kind of done here, there is a Discord chat also in the description that you guys can come and join and chat and do all those other fun things. We can kind of talk, I guess, like we're doing now. Anyway, we do that, and yeah, I don't know. We talk about all sorts of things, random new development tools, or just game jams that are coming up, or whatever else we want. There's a gaming thing that we do, but anyway, totally random. It's fun. Yeah, if you guys have any feedback for me, any suggestions to make this channel better, or just things you want to see, let me know in the comments below, and I can definitely check those out and maybe throw them on some post-it notes and get them on the wall. But that's it for this video, so till next time, see you, Internet.